percentage of Cable Bahamas do you think is really owned by Bahamians?
You want me to take a guess?
Yes.
I would say about 45%.
I'll say 80%.
80%. Okay.
30%.
30%.
Yeah.
I think Cable Bahamas is Bahamian owned.
Really?
Yeah.
What if I told you it was actually entirely owned by Bahamians?
That would be a surprise to me.
Tell me exactly, what is the percentage?
100.
Okay.
It started off with a foreign ownership interest.
Yeah.
In and around about 2010, Cable Bahamas actually bought back all of those shares that were held by the foreign party. But today, it is 100% Bahamian owned.
100%.
100%.
Well, now you know.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12 Weekend, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, the chairman of the National Festivals Commission says Junkanoo Carnival was a learning experience. This is Carnival bands say they too lost big time. A civic group submits recommendations to government for the Freedom of Information Act. Plus, a group of men make one disabled woman's life a whole lot easier. I'm Paige McCartney. We've got those stories and more straight ahead on NB12 Weekend. Welcome once again to NB12 Weekend. Following heavy losses during the controversial Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival, Chairman of the Bahamas National Festival Commission, Paul Major, has admitted that it's not good that organizers went nearly $4 million over budget. Last week, Major revealed that Carnival generated $6.6 million in tax revenue, but only generated $1.5 million in direct revenue. Well, in his unaudited report, Major estimated $19 million in direct economic activity because of the event.
I never said this loss was not a bad thing. I've never discussed the loss. Before the carnival, during the carnival, since the carnival, I've always said this has never been about a profit and loss exercise. It was always about economically stimulating the cultural sector. And I think we were overwhelmingly successful in doing that by the number of musicians that were able to be employed and engaged, by the number of Junkanoos and other creative arts people who were able to generate income by producing costumes and basically selling other paraphernalia.
While Major maintains the inaugural event was a success, he called Carnival a learning experience for subsequent festivals, although critics have called it an unnecessarily expensive lesson. Government offered a $12.9 million subsidy to the first Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival, while the commission received $1.5 million in sponsors. Major said there are a number of things he would have done differently.
We could have concluded on a headliner earlier, which would have given us more, particularly international marketing time. We could have better organized the cultural village, particularly as it related to the vendors, because the vendors at the extremities of the village did not do as well as those toward the center where the main stage was. So they're the kind of things that we would certainly do differently next year. We didn't have enough entry points to be able to control. People were waiting hours at a time, sometime, to pay to come in. We didn't have enough beverage stands. People had to wait over an hour sometime to get a beverage or soft drink or alcohol.
Major also responded to critics who raised numerous concerns in the months leading up to the festival.
Nobody ever said that. Let me correct that right now. Nobody ever said that. In fact, we always said that no country or city could have a successful festival unless its locals buy into it first. And all the pundits were saying, oh, Bahamians aren't buying this isn't Bahamian, this is a foreign thing we're importing. So that was the first benchmark, or the first hurdle. So we knew we had to get Bahamians to buy in. What foreigners are going to come here to a local festival or Junkanoo Carnival that Bahamians don't patronize?
Major also admitted that organizers may have given away more than half of the tickets produced for Junkanoo Carnival. He said that may have also contributed to low revenue figures. Well, it turns out that the government wasn't the only one to lose big during the festival. Carnival bands also lost money, according to President of the Bahamas Carnival Band Owners Association, Dario Torelli. Jasmine Brown reports.
According to Torelli, who is also the leader of the Rhythms Band, despite getting thousands of dollars in subsidies from the government, Carnival bands still lost thousands of dollars. In the weeks leading up to the Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival, band owners revealed they were selling only a handful of costumes despite buying materials for hundreds. Sluggish sales forced band owners to slash their costume prices by more than 50%. As a result, the government stepped in and provided the 29 companies with $900,000 in seed funding for the Road Fever March. Torelli says that worked out to about $100 for every costume sold by the bands. He said it cost nearly triple that to cover.
We're looking at $257 per band at 150 persons to get on the parade. That's everything. That's t-shirt, drinks, food, security, equipment, gas, truck, driver, and all the staff that goes along with that. And so that's a lot of money.
Torelli says the average cost for each band to participate in the Road Fever event was $50,000, nearly double of what they actually made. The high cost was attributed to more than just costumes.
I said earlier on the radio that it takes a lot to put us on the road. You're talking about thousands and thousands of good dollars. Unfortunately, our economy is small. We have small amount of Bahamians that will participate. The money comes from international market where they will spend a couple $100 more. Until we reach that point, hopefully by the third year, the second and third year, we could realize that income of tourists at that level where they could pay $500-600 for costume.
Torelli says the Band Owners Association is currently compiling a report to determine where they went wrong and what can be done to increase their profits next year.
It's an internal report for the band owners, so we could actually look at it and see where we failed and where we succeed, and how do we buy, and how do we buy in time, and how do we buy effectively, not only for 2016 but beyond.
He says they hope to complete that report by the end of the month. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Brown.
While local civic group Citizens for a Better Bahamas has submitted a number of recommended changes to the Freedom of Information Bill 2015 to the government in hopes of providing private citizens better access to information of national importance. The list of 20 recommendations was hand-delivered to Education Minister Jerome Fitzgerald earlier this week. Among other things, the group is calling for the appointment of an independent information commissioner.
Information commissioner. Right now in the bill, basically the commissioner is appointed by the Governor General through a recommendation made by the Prime Minister, who consults with the Leader of the Opposition. But we feel that this body, this person holding this office, should be independently appointed, be it by a Parliament Select Committee or Judicial Services Committee. But even going further than that is that there should be public feedback on the appointment of this individual. Like a short list of candidates should be published for this public feedback.
The Citizens for a Better Bahamas further called for the draft legislation to be further amended so that the Information Commissioner holds responsibility for any further exemptions to records or public authorities encompassed by the bill. The 2015 bill establishes the Information Commissioner as a separate entity from the Data Commissioner. The group also called on government to cut the amount of time exempt records can be kept from public disclosure from 30 years to 15 years. Lamar Campbell, who is a policy advisor for the group, said a balance must be reached between privacy and public disclosure.
I think this goes back to weighing out privacy and public disclosure. So I think a balance must be kept in that effect between privacy and public disclosure when it comes to whistleblower protection, for instance. Right now, public servants themselves are mandated by the Official Secrecy Act, but now the bill itself provides for whistleblower protection. So one of our recommendations is that the Freedom of Information Act should supersede the Official Secrecy Act in that regard.
The group has not had any feedback yet from government on its recommendations. However, Campbell said it's hoped that the minister takes the recommendations seriously and engages the private sector before moving forward with the bill.
Ultimately, citizens themselves should play a role in what exactly is mandated by government. They should, provide some feedback on any government decisions that are ultimately going to affect their lives. We haven't heard any feedback from government as yet, but the intention is that these recommendations would be forwarded to the Freedom of Information Act committee. This committee is established by government for them to review it before they finalize the bill to present to Parliament.
The government unveiled the 2015 Freedom of Information Bill in May. The updated legislation was praised for eliminating provisions within the previous 2012 Freedom of Information legislation that enabled government ministers to issue certifications of exemption from public disclosure. The 2012 Freedom of Information Act was signed into law but never enforced. Campbell said there's concern that this new bill will again collect dust, given the track records of successive governments. But he said the Christie administration's decision to revise the bill is a step in the right direction. He said it needs to be enforced sooner rather than later. Well, police are searching for 3 men believed to be responsible for a shooting incident in South Beach. Reports are that shortly after 3 p.m. yesterday, several men were standing in the front of a home on Kenilworth Avenue in South Beach when 3 men walked up and shot one of them, before running off. The victim's in stable condition in hospital. Police are asking anyone with information to contact them at 328-TIPS. Well, as this year's murder count nears triple digits, President of Citizens for Justice Bishop Walter Hanchel says the country has become a virtual war zone. Hanchel says the fear of crime is still very real, as he pointed to the amount of murders and violent crimes that have occurred in recent weeks.
Our Bahamas, our peaceful Bahamas, is now like a war zone. Murders, assaults, rapes, threats, the fear of crime is rampant throughout the land. This has negatively impacted our country. This is a national security risk to the Bahamas.
Hanchel says it's clear that not enough is being done.
And it seems as though it is not getting the attention that it should. Our government needs to take some drastic actions and stop playing politics with the people of the Bahamas. These issues need to be addressed and not ignored. We need some action. We need strategies. We need resources to implement programs that can reach families that are at risk.
Hanchel says the church has to also do its part.
We need the church to rise up, get out of the walls of the church. We get too many lazy preachers, lazy Christians. All they want to do is sit up in church. Get out of the walls of the church. Go to the people, talk to them, find out how you could help them, and stop playing church.